So here we go. Let's tackle this question here. And immediately we want to read that question sentence, seeing as it says, how many boxes can fit in the unit by volume? All right, everybody. So before we even get into all of this, into the actual information, when we're asking how many of one amount can fit into another amount, my party people, what operation are we dealing with? Like, if I'm trying to think of, hey, how many $5 bills can fit into a 20? That's division, right? Yeah, that's absolutely 100% division. So when we're asking, hey, how many of these boxes over here can fit into this unit, that's division. And the hint, the big, huge hint that we're given here is dividing those volumes. So that's what I'm going to do. My answer to see how many fit is going to be the volume of the unit divided by the volume of the box. That's really how we're going to do this. Again, when we divide, we're going to see how many of one fits into the other. In this case, how many boxes will fit into the unit. So you have that total volume for the unit, total volume for each box, and when you divide, you'll see how many can fit. Just like that. So when we take a look at the information, we see that it says the storage units are 15 feet long, 12 feet wide, and 8 feet tall. So what that tells me is that this is a rectangular prism. So here's what we have. My volume, let me write this a little neater, right there. So my volume for my storage unit, I'll just go ahead and highlight that in blue. And when we do that, we'll have 15 feet multiplied by 12 feet multiplied by 8 feet. If we wanted to, we could absolutely just multiply these first straight up. But one thing you're going to see is that that's going to take a lot of time that we really don't need to spend. So hold that thought right here. Now let's go over to the volume of each individual box. So to capture that, I'll simply go ahead and use red. So to capture that, I'll come back over here and I see that it says the box measures 3 feet long, 24 inches wide, and 2 feet tall. Let me show you what the problem is with that right over here. I'm going to write everything down again. 3 feet long, 24 inches wide, and then 2 feet tall again. Everyone, do we see the elephant in the room? Do we see the massive problem? I hope we do. Notice how we have feet, feet, and feet. Perfect. Then we have feet, inches, and feet. That's a big problem. If we are going to be dividing these volumes, we have got to be dividing the same unit. And so we don't want to convert everything into inches. We want to convert the 24 inches into feet. That's what we are going to do because that's the easiest way to proceed. Everyone, we have 12 inches in every foot. So are we going to multiply or divide to convert inches into the bigger unit feet? Yeah, we're going to divide. So when we divide by 12, 24 inches, that's 2 feet, everybody. That is 2 feet. So that's why I'll replace the 24 inches right here with 2 feet. And now we are done for sure. So everyone, remember earlier how I said if we wanted to, we could absolutely calculate this up top and then this on bottom? Sure, again, you absolutely could. But if you're doing even with mental math, that's going to be tough. So here's what I would rather do. Everyone, what's that S word? That word that starts with an S that we can do when we're dealing with fractions. Yeah, we can simplify. We can absolutely simplify. And look at the easier time that this gives us. Check it out. So everyone, look, if I do 3 times 2 times 2, what is that going to be? Well, 3 times 2, that's going to be 6. 6 times 2, that gives us 12. So what this actually is, everybody, let me just copy and paste this over. This is actually going to be everything on top divided by 12. And oh, look at this. This can cancel out right there. So to find out the number of boxes that fit is actually going to fall down to a very simple calculus. 15 multiplied by 8. We actually don't need to do this crazy part right there all in one. Nah, if you just simplify, you reduce it to something much more manageable in 15 multiplied by 8, which ends up being 120. 5 times 8 is 40, carry the 4. Then 1 times 8, 8 plus 4, and that gives you 12, which overall makes 120 boxes that are going to fit into the unit. And that's why the correct answer here, everyone, is answer choice C, 120 boxes. All right, let's get into it here, everybody. The first thing we're always going to do is read that question first. The question reads, how many ounces does it weigh? All right, so at the end of the day, we're looking for the weight of some item, and we're looking for it specifically, again, in ounces. So we have our unit conversion listed right here. 1 pound equals 16 ounces. And it looks like we're starting off at 2.5 pounds. So we're trying to turn 2.5 pounds. We're trying to turn that into blank ounces. So let's follow that rule that we know. If we're going to the unit with a bunch of numbers, well, we multiply to get there. If we're trying to get down to the unit with the 1 on it, we're trying to divide. So with that said, everybody, we're trying to get to the ounces. We're trying to get to the unit with all those numbers on it, the 16. So we are going to multiply. So boom, right there, we automatically know what we're trying to do. Multiply by that number right there, that's 16. And so let's do it. 16 times 2.5. And we're going to multiply by a decimal. So just to make sure that we're aware, we're going to ignore the decimal at first. Ignore that thing, and then bring that decimal back at the end after we're done multiplying. So here we go. 6 multiplied by 5, that's going to be 30, carry the 3. Then we have 1 multiplied by 5, that's going to be 5. Then carry the 3 is going to be 8. Then we'll move over to the next place value, putting that 0 right there. And so we'll have 6 times 2, which will be 12, carry the 1. And then 1 times 2 is 2, carry the 1 is 3. So now we add this back up, and we have 0, 8 plus 2 is 10, carry the 1, and then we have 4. My party people, how many decimal places are we going to bring back? Yeah, just 1 decimal place. There's none here at the top, 1 right there on the bottom. So we'll bring 1 back. And there we are. We'll have 40 ounces here at the end. Booyah. So the correct answer for this problem is going to be B, 40 ounces. All right, next one up. So here this problem is asking us what the perimeter of this shape is. So to find the perimeter of this shape that we're dealing with, it's very important to understand if there's a formula for it. Because remember, perimeter just means whatever shape we're dealing with, find that distance around the shape. But here it says perimeter of a square, so we might have a little shortcut here. When it comes to squares, let's go ahead and just expand upon that right there. When it comes to squares, we have sides that are all the same. 4 sides in particular. So if one side is given to us as 9 meters, just like that, what I can tell you is that we have 4 identical sides. So we can write side equals 9 over there, over here, and over here. 4 sides that are the same. The perimeter is going to be 4 times the side. So here we are. If we multiply 4 by 9, we end up getting 36. And there we go. The perimeter here of this square tablecloth is going to be 36 meters, and we're all done.